Hey folks, and welcome back to another ESEA Consolidated application video. In this video, we're going to be going over the application workflow, so everyone knows exactly how that's going to work this year. Let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, so we are here on a Word document that has a screenshot of the different statuses in the ESEA Consolidated application. And so let's walk through how this works, because when you look at it all together, it can be a little bit confusing. So the from column is the current status, and then the to column is, what's going to be available after you go from the from status, so to speak. So at this point, there is the not started status. And so not started is your application was loaded and you haven't done anything yet. And so as you can see, there are two options in the from column. So you can move it to draft started, or you can move it to ESEA funds refused. So that is a new feature this year. And so any district that is looking to refuse funds, instead of having the superintendent come in and send us an email, they would simply just log in, click the refuse funds button, and that would be that. Once it is draft started, as you can see in the from column, there is only one thing that can happen. It can be moved to draft completed. Let's see, then from there, let's see. Sorry, I'm just looking at the order here. It's a little interesting. That once you have draft completed, there are two different options that can happen. So the LEA fiscal representative can approve it, or they can return it not approved. So this would be your business manager. So either they're going to say, yes, all the budgets look good, we're ready to go with that, or they say, well, there's something that we need to talk about, or we need to make some adjustments. And so they'll send it back, and hopefully that they would work with you to get that figured out. Once the fiscal rep has approved it, then there are two things that can happen from here. The LEA authorized rep, which is your superintendent, can approve it, or they can return it not approved. If your fiscal rep returns it not approved, the next status, or the only status that can be changed to from there, is draft completed. And again, then it would go back to the fiscal rep would need to approve it again. And then from the fiscal rep, then it would have to go to the authorized rep. So the authorized rep, or the superintendent, once they have approved it, then it comes to the state. So at the state, we have three different things that we can do from this point. We can provide substantial approval, we can provide final approval, and we can return it for additional edits. If the authorized rep returns it not approved, then it comes back. So the only thing you can do is draft complete, which then again goes to the business manager, and then the business manager goes to the superintendent. But if the state, let's see, if the state returns or provides substantial approval, so if your application comes back in substantially approvable form, we're going to go ahead and click that button. And then there's two things that we can do at that point. We can either give it final approval, or we can return it for additional edits. Once we give it final approval, the next step would then be to start revisions. So revision 0 is the initial application. Revision 1 would be the first real change to that original application. If we return it for additional edits, then it goes back, and the only thing that can be done is put it to draft completed. So the big change with the workflow this year is that the business manager and the superintendent are going to have to sign off every time the application is open. And what this is this allows for the checks and balances that we didn't have in our previous year working with Grants for Me. And in doing so, the ESEA coordinator could make changes to an application without the knowledge of the business manager or without the knowledge of the superintendent. We're not saying that that happened, but we're just saying that's something that could occur. And so in order to avoid that, we've had to go through and put these checks and balances in place. So again, anytime the application is reopened or is returned for additional edits, or returned at any point along the process, whether it's the business manager sending it back or it's the superintendent sending it back, it has to go through the ESEA coordinator approves it by marking it draft complete, and then the fiscal rep or the business manager has to approve, then the superintendent has to approve. So that is the new process for this year. The one thing that is not on here, because it's not a status change, but once a ESEA coordinator marks it as draft complete, the system will send all of the principals in your district who need to sign off on a project an email saying they need to go in and do so. And they would just go to their project budget page for their school project, and they would have to click the certify button there. Once all principals have signed off, then it would be the system would signal the business manager, and then they would have to go in. Please note that the principals do not have to sign off as part of this workflow process. If it gets reopened, they only have to sign off one time for the application. So that is it for the application workflow. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to your ESEA Regional Program Manager, as we're always happy to assist in any way that we can. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Have a great day and see you in the next video.